Hey guys, Troy Peterson, Mr. Bluegill here. We're out chasing walleyes, and one of the things that I encounter where I'm at in central Wisconsin is the fact. Oh, there we go. The fact that our fish see so many different baits. We are so pressured, and the fishing can be very tough. But what I find is going back to the simple stuff, the natural colors, none of this custom painted stuff, and picking out the hammered golds, the hammered copper, hammered silvers. And when the fishing gets really tough, I'll do something a little bit different. Guys fish panfish plastics, and we'll put them on our spoons just for that little bit of extra trigger. As that bait sits down there, you got those really good plastics will have some sense of amino acids and protein for some natural triggers, and then the little fine tails that just sit there and wiggle is just enough to entice these fish on those tough days. Today we got actually the coconut crab from 13 Fishing, and kind of represents that minnow head profile, but it's got that nice little fine tail that just sits there and quivers, and just those walleyes are just driven crazy. And I think you get a little bit more flash when you're naturally jigging these baits. When you're working spoons, I don't use any live bait, so I rely strictly on the action of the spoon to trigger these fish. And I tell my clients all the time, it's kind of like musky fishing. You really are trying to make these fish mad. They may not be hungry, but they're coming in, they've seen something that they like, and you're trying to create that reaction bite. And I see it too often is guys, they're moving their baits just up and down like a yo-yo. That bait does nothing. There's no motion, there's no action. It's very critical that you do these quick snaps. If you look down a hole and you watch your bait, you can kind of get a better idea how that bait moves when you snap it like this. It'll shoot off to the side and then fall back down, shoot off to the side, fall back down, and you're covering a greater area around the where you're fishing rather than just up and down through an 8-inch hole. And what I found throughout my travels across the Midwest chasing walleyes, doesn't matter if it's Lake Erie, Green Bay, Lake Winnebago, or up here in Lake of the Woods, if you can grab their attention and make them chase it, they're going to eat it. So a lot of times what I do is once I got that fish come in, if he starts to follow you up a little bit, just keep raising it and make him chase it and kind of jiggle it a little bit. You get that plastic working, and if they start to follow you, there's some times where you can't reel fast enough and they'll shoot right up and grab it and try and swim back down, and you just got to be prepared for that hook set. Everybody thinks walleyes are predator fish and they're just going to eat minnows. And where I'm at, especially on the Winnebago system in Green Bay, we have a very big population of redworms and lake fly larvae. So a lot of times when we cut open the stomachs of these fish, what we're seeing is bugs. So that's important to have a wide variety of colors of plastics that you can naturally match the hatch if you say it. We are hooked up. Another nice walleye with that coconut crab. What I did with this one is as that bait fell down, he came rocketing up off the bottom, and I just held it there just for a second, give it just a little bit of a wiggle, get that tail moving, and whack! No live bait, little piece of plastic from 13 Fishing with that coconut crab. And guys, you guys can catch fish like these as well.
That was a fun video we did.
Yeah.
Now we're just playing some stuff here. Wait till 8 o'clock once everybody joins in, and we'll get started. Did you guys get any snow?
We did. Yeah, we did. It. I don't know how much, but it certainly came down.
We're sitting. I'd say there's probably 8 to 9 inches out there right now.
Oof.
And it's snowing like a banshee yet. We got one band of snow that is just sitting right on top of us, and it hasn't stopped all day. We had a little break this morning. Everybody was kind of wondering, why did everybody cancel school already and stuff last night? And I woke up this morning too. I was like, this is pretty weak. We only had maybe 2-3 inches at best, but it was heavy, wet, sloppy crap. And then you go 10 miles to the east, it was calm as can be, a little bit of rain, no snow, grass is green, and nothing. Up in the Appleton area and I guess a few other places, they didn't see anything, and it's been snowing just steady all, I'd say probably from like 2-3 o'clock on. I plowed the driveway once, and now I've been tying rods and working in the shop all afternoon, and I went outside and went into the house, and it was like, holy crap. There's probably a good 6 inches, 7 inches or so in the driveway again. So
Yeah.
Kids will be happy. I'm trying to build up a big snow pile so they can build a fort. That's my little guy's like, Dad, put all the snow in one spot.
Yeah, it certainly came down. I don't know how much we got, but it's just been consistent. We definitely got a few inches for sure. But it's been getting cold around here. And so I'm actually in Osakis, so pretty close to your last guest, Randon Olson, in the Otter Tail area. So I go up and fish with him every so often, or try to at least. But
nice. We've seen a lot of crazy weather patterns over the last 10 years. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like this. I mean, I sure hope this isn't the norm.
Yeah, well, I think I heard somebody say it best. They said we've had good ice fishing seasons, we've had bad ice fishing seasons, but we really haven't had no ice fishing seasons when it comes to just the start. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just like it got delayed. And, for the people up north of me into the, Bemidji area, they were out on that 3-inch mark in November for just a short little stint. But yeah, it's been unfortunate, man. It's really got people eager to get out. And luckily, we've had some really cold nights, and I was taking a walk down by the access. I'm right next to the public access here, and you could just hear it make, forming ice and whatnot. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I've got a pond in my backyard, and that's always kind of a good telltale of what's happening on some of the smaller bays and stuff, at least. And today still, there was open water, and now with all the snow, it's all kind of slushed up.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that, tonight or tomorrow she'll lock up, but it's still like 30 some degrees outside.
Right.
It's pretty warm. But next week, man, woo, you can get cold.
Dude.
People that are begging for cold, it's coming, and then it's going to get here, and it's going to be like, yeah.
I'm looking at, we got -10 next weekend. Woo. Around here. -14 at night.
Wes is yelling at me for eating dinner early. Wes,
I saw that. I was just checking to make sure we were live on my end. This is the first time I've actually been. I use this platform for the Long Ice Outdoors podcast, and I really do enjoy it. Specifically for recording episodes, just because you can capture the audio from the guests' end and my end. Yeah. Which is really nice. So I've never actually live streamed on here before, but it's pretty sweet. I see everybody awesome in the comments, Wes and John.
Yep.
Welcome in.
Our good buddy Marshall should be joining us here tonight too.
That's what he told me. I just got off the phone with Mr. Marshall.
Okay.
And we were just talking fishing, and he's chomping at the bit to get out there himself. There's Laz. What's up, man?
Mr. Laz. How's it going, Laz?
I actually got to ask him. I think he's been out. Laz, comment in there if you've been out yet. Because last time I talked to him, he hadn't been out yet in Iowa.
I'm going to bring Laz in and see if we can get some condition stuff.
Little report action
from Iowa. Let's see if I can find him here. Laz, stay tuned, but I'm going to send you a link here in Messenger.
Okay, he said he's not been out yet. just late muzzle loading. Nice. I was wondering about that. I was wondering.
All right. All 4 platforms with Instagram and YouTube and everything. If I go everything through my computer, it turns into a giant echo chamber.
Yeah.
I hear about 18 different voices talking.
That's why we're fishermen and not audio technicians, you know. Try our best. I will say I actually am releasing episode 6 tonight with Kyle Agri. We talked about the past, present, and future of ice fishing. So we talked about when he was a young lad and back in, I'm not going to date Mr. Agri, but he's older than me and he's more experienced. And so he was talking about, what it was. They used the green box and the, Eskimos when they were green and things like that. So it's super cool to hear from him and just kind of how it's progressed throughout the decades and where it's going, in terms of the future of ice fishing and fishing in general with just advancements in technology and things like that. It was really exciting. So that'll be released right after I hop off here. So
nice.
But he said something very interesting. We were talking before we recorded, and he goes, "You know what, Logan? I honestly think it's been a bad year for the anglers in terms of ice fishing, but we dodged a bullet in some areas." And I said, "What do you mean by that?" He goes, "Well, we got dumped on in terms of rain for a while there. Had that been snow, had that been just coming down in buckets, it could have been 15 plus inches at that time, which could have really ruined the start of ice fishing." So in his mind, he said, we really dodged a bullet. I know it's pushed back and delayed the season for a lot of people, but around these specific, the Fargo area down by Alexandria, Otter Tail and surrounding counties, it was nice that we didn't get all that snow right away. That could have really shot the ice season for a while.
Yeah.
And created bad ice. But
so I'm a little nervous because some of our small bays and some of our lakes have some ice, but there's also a lot of open stuff too. So I know, the minute it gets below 0, we get a good freeze. These lakes are going to go boom, just like that. There's going to be 3-4 inches probably the first night we hit single digits because it's so cold. But, with all this slushy stuff, I'm never a fan of having snow freeze like what we're going to get, because it never makes really good base ice. And it's going to be interesting, I think, to say the least, once we start getting out and checking some spots. And the one thing that really kind of concerns me is everybody's chomping at the bit, right? And everybody thinks that, it's middle of January, ice should be good. And the inexperienced people are just going to go out. And I think we're going to see some people going in this year, probably more so than in past years, just because it's, it's a timing thing. Everybody thinks that, just because it's January, ice should be good everywhere.
I think you're right.
They're not going to be the guys like us that are going out with spud bars and checking every 3 feet as we're walking out. They may see a guy off in the distance and they're just going to go to him and not knowing what's between point A and point B. And they find some bad stuff because I know it's going to be treacherous on these lakes around here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. And that's why, some people, I don't know how many times, and specifically on my platform, talking just ice safety in general, that is so important now more than ever, because like you said, they're just going to see the guy in the middle of the lake and just trust that he can get out there, or see a vehicle, and just kind of, but it's going to be, I think you're right. I think we have to do, as a community, have to be as safe as possible. You know, we've already seen a big influx in rescues on destination lakes and things like that.
Yep.
And that's, you know, that's caused a lot of stir on social media. And so we have to be safer now more than ever for these conditions, for sure.
We're used to that over here. I mean, we see that on Green Bay and on the Great Lakes, you know, quite often, ice chunks and stuff floating around. So to see that stuff happening up in Red Lake, you know, in January, that's not common.
Mm-hmm. Certainly abnormal.
Let's see. Hey, Laz, if you can hear me, I sent you a link, but if you want to join in and chat with us for a little bit, we'll talk some Iowa stuff too.
We need an Iowa report, man. We need the Iowa report.
Yes, sir. Fill us in on some late muzzle loading. I got some good recipes to make for some ring bologna. I've been doing my own sausage and stuff, and I'm telling you what, we found a recipe to make this ring bologna. Oh my goodness.
To die for, huh?
I gave a stick of it to my buddy last night, and he warned me, called me. He's like, Bluegill, he's like, next time you leave, you better make sure all your doors are locked because I'm coming and raiding your freezer. Its stuff is like crack. It is so good. Yeah, I could eat it every day, but I think I have like about 50 sticks. So I figure I can eat it at least once a week and I'll be good.
So you figured out the seasoning and everything, and you got that thing dialed in.
Yeah, and you know, it was my first time doing it actually, and it turned out perfect. I don't know. Yeah, I think I could do a little bit better with my smoker. I don't have high enough racks in my pit smoker. Some of the bottoms were, you know, the curl of a ring bologna sat a little bit too close to where the flame or the heat comes through and up and around because it's a reverse flow smoker. So some of my bottoms got a little charred or a little bit of burnt on the bottom, but
some
cut
people
that
like
out
that.
And the rest of it is phenomenal.
My wife would love that. I charred some chicken tonight. We were making Alfredo. I charred a few pieces for her because that's how she likes it.
I was never a fan of black, and you know, I'll eat black and stuff, but if it's got any bit of black charred, sorry,
nope, not for me.
Not my flavor. Well, we got some people tuning in. I think Laz might join us here too, but Logan, thanks for joining us, man. Why don't you go ahead, tell everybody who you are and what you do and where you're at, and we'll get started.
So Logan Long, and I actually, in just terms of ice fishing, I came up to Minnesota to play college football, and I played at Minnesota State Moorhead and got done with that, got into coaching for a while, and got my teaching degree. Was going to be a teacher, but found out I didn't really want to wipe noses and tie shoes the rest of my career. So I certainly wanted to do something working with people and things like that. So I got into sales, different types of sales, and that's where I'm currently at now. But in terms of fishing and ice fishing, that has become a massive, massive passion for me. It was the first time I actually picked up an ice rod was 2017. And we got the Iowa report. Time out, Mr. Laz. He's in. Forget what I'm saying. I need to hear what's going on in Iowa.
What's going on, guys? How we doing?
Good, Laz. How are you, bud?
Fantastic.
Good. Would be better if we could get on some ice down here, but seems like the problem with everyone right now, huh?
Yeah. Yep. And you guys got a bunch of snow too with this storm?
Oh man, we got a ton. It's still going actually.
Yeah, us too. Are you guys supposed to get this storm coming up then this weekend too?
Yeah, we're supposed to get another. They're saying probably 4 inches between. I think they said late Friday into Sunday.
Oh, you're escaping that one. This one here, we'll probably end up with 10, 11 inches. I'm guessing by the time we're done. And then I think this Friday through Saturday, it's supposed to snow every day here, but Friday and Saturday they're calling for another foot or another really big storm that they say could be bigger than this one. So just sucks.
Oh, wow. That's tough. Logan, how are conditions out by you?
Yeah, we're not getting hit really hard right now with snow. It's certainly there. It's been flurrying more than anything for the past couple days. We definitely have a few inches. I'd say maybe closer to the 5 mark around me. But that's we don't need any more. But unfortunately, we can't stop Mother Nature. She's going to decide what she wants to decide, and if she wants to dump a bunch of snow on us, well, we have to adapt. Certainly, as ice anglers, and it's been a crazy year to begin with. I'm sure, as all, both of you guys know, it's been just a very strange year. So hopefully we can kind of avoid that snow in my area. I'm going to have to start driving out a little bit. I was thinking about heading out to North Dakota, but I don't know what they're, we should get somebody. We need a report from North Dakota right now. I'd love to go to the Devil's Lake or Jamestown area and get on some nice perch, but it's just, man, flip a coin for what the weather's going to do the next few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. One thing for sure is we know it's going to get cold.
We do know that.
Yeah. I'm a fan like you, Troy. I'm not. I don't like this. It's been really weird. Some of our smaller ponds have frozen over. Some of the other smaller ponds haven't. 2 hours north from us, Clear Lake capped. Then we lost the ice. Then we capped again. They got hit with a little bit of snow today, but not as bad as like Central Iowa did. But like you guys said, this snow is going to freeze, and for people who are inexperienced, I think it's going to cause a lot of havoc.
It's definitely going to be a year you're going to want to really pay attention to ice conditions. The best thing we could get right now is, okay, let's get this snow out of here. We know we got a ton of cold coming, and it looks like we're going to have a good 10 days of, maybe highs in the, 10, 15 degrees and lows well below zero. Even at that frozen snow and stuff, you're still going to make some okay ice. You're not going to make it, obviously, if it was fresh, clear ice, but at least it'll be enough to start getting some ATVs and stuff out. If we get a good 6-8 inch base, I'd be happy with that right now, just to be able to get out.
Yeah, absolutely agreed.
Oh, we got a report from North Dakota. The Lair area is slow, only 5 to 6 inches of ice. So there we go.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
What have you been hearing, Logan, up on Lake of the Woods? I see guys are finally starting to drive some vehicles.
Yeah, it's been hit or miss for resorts, depending on when they let out, when they not let out. I've seen some do road closures and things like that over the past week or so. But in terms of, from what I've heard so far, it seems like a lot of people are getting out there. They're allowing transportation, snowmobile, ATV, UTV transportation as of right now. That's the last I've heard from there. But then again, they might be having vehicles out, by this week, this week. So it's just flip a coin. I think honestly, it depends on the area. The Lake of the Woods is such a monster. It really depends on the wind and, where the wind hits and can really, break up that ice and things like that and create cracks. But as far as I know, people are getting out there and I'm seeing some good stuff in terms of some nice fish. I actually had a friend of mine up there, and I believe it was a 51. Don't quote me on this if he's listening, Devin, but it was a 51-inch sturgeon out of, I believe, Zipple Bay Resort. So that was very nice to see, prehistoric beauty. But that's the fishing so far. Maybe people in the comments might have a better report if they're closer to that area. But it seems like it's still Lake of the Woods each and every year.
Nice. Yeah, I got a bunch of friends that are heading up here, I think next week, and they were, uncertain if they were going to even be able to make it. And I'm like, by next week, you guys will be fine. So tonight's topic, and we'll kind of get back on track. And Laz, you're more welcome to hang out with us and talk about this. Is ice camping. It's become a pretty big deal, and especially on years like this year where, the guys can't get out their wheelhouses and stuff. And, where we're at in Wisconsin, we don't get a chance. So one thing that's really bothered me about being able to offer, night fishing or sleeper shacks is we never know what our ice is going to be like. We might have a year where maybe 2 weeks we can drive vehicles out in the lake. Some years we're driving by, Christmas, and we're off by the first week in April. So we just don't know. Northern Minnesota up by you guys, you can drive sleepers and big wheelhouses out on the ice every year. Now this year, obviously an anomaly, but there's still guys, fishing in big sleeper houses up there. So to combat that, so many people have got into the fact that, all right, we don't need a $100,000 ice house. We can buy a $700 Eskimo 850 Outbreak XD and get some foam tiles, maybe a couple cots, for roughly $2,000 probably at tops. You can spend a week out on the ice and enjoy it. And I tell you what, and I know we talked about this with Randon too, if you've never spent a night out on the ice, it is something that you will never forget. Just the noises and the stuff that happens out there, kind of just, it's in a totally different world.
Yeah, it'll certainly scare you if it's your first time out there. I remember I spent my first time out in a sleeper house, and man, I don't know if I got a wink of sleep that night. And then a big boom every once in a while. Yeah. But yeah, you're completely right, Troy. It's one of those things where people during COVID, actually, that was 2020, the 2019 into 2020, we saw a big push in the Midwest for ice camping, and it's continued to grow and grow and grow into 2024 now, where it seems like everybody wants to do it. What I found out, I just did an episode 2 episodes ago with a guy out in the Idaho, Wyoming area, lot of burbot and big trout and things like that. They don't have the thickness they don't really sell hard-sided houses out there. So for them, if they wanted to stay out, they had to use their portables. And he said, we've been doing this for ever since I can remember. If we wanted to actually stay the night out on the ice, they would pop up their portables, flip overs, put a cot in there, disco beds, you name it, and bring, everything but the kitchen sink with them. And that's what they did. Now you can see when you're starting to get more into the Midwest, it's becoming more of this, man, I don't really want to spend 20, 30, 40, 50 plus $1,000 on a hard-sided fish house when I can take something that's very mobile in a portable unit and turn it into something more permanent, and that is what people, man, that every, online and everything like that, people are asking for, what's the best equipment, what kind of cots, what kind of floor mats on Amazon. It exploded here in the Midwest area, Wisconsin, Dakotas, Minnesota, even Iowa. I'm sure, Laz, I don't know if it's big down there in terms of, do you see a lot of hard-sided houses, or is it more of that portable, if I want to stay the night, I'm sleeping in a portable?
Yeah, it's mostly the portable idea. Again, like kind of like Troy, I'm assuming. We don't have a thickness is just not there. I mean, the Iowa Great Lakes way up north. Usually they can get their hard houses out, but it's nothing huge. We're not talking these humongous ice castles. They're on, small skids, they're on small trailer bases, things like that. But I agree with you as far as something easy, maneuverable. You can change locations the same night if, the spot's not right. And that's what I see quite a bit here.
Yeah, and you can do it pretty simple, right? You can do just a couple cots and a heater, a shelter, and maybe some portable lights. Probably the most important thing is to definitely put a floor down. Those square tiles that you use for your kids' playroom or for workout area work really well. Or you can go as far as, let's get some solar panels. Let's get some tables in there. We're going to get a diesel heater or a wood stove. And we're going to spend a week out on the ice and make it a base camp like you would as if you're going to go up the mountains and do a hunting trip or something like that. I mean, some of these guys are really, tweaking these things.
It's impressive.
and pimping them out to the absolute max. And they leave them out there. I mean, around here, you couldn't do that here because the first night you're gone, you'd come back and you'd be like south side of Chicago, right? You know, everything would be stripped and you wouldn't have anything left other than a few holes in the ice where your shack used to be.
Maybe some waxworms. That's about it.
Yeah.
Right. Some minnow heads, you know. But you're completely right. I mean, it's just crazy how big it's gotten, and we could go on for an hour talking about the heating sources. I saw down below, Hardwater Adrenaline mentioned wood stoves are a big thing. People are coming up with really cool ideas to try to heat their portables, and it's diesel heaters, hot topic on all the social media platforms. People are just having the 20-pound propane with the buddy. That's a standard, but people are getting creative and they're coming up with the chimney out the side of the window or door, or, it's really cool to see a lot of people's ideas. I saw some people are putting a table with a TV. Now you're really, Ritz-Carlton, man. I mean, you're taking something that's just very, very portable and turning it permanent, which is awesome.
It's the ingenuity that people have come up with, stuff that you wouldn't even think about. And across the entire Midwest, guys up in Alaska and, out in the mountains, out west. And that's where you see a lot of it more. So it's probably out west where these guys will get on one of those mountain lakes and they'll leave it set up all winter long. That's their base camp. They might bring in some fresh propane or some fresh wood or something for whatever their heat source is. But it's crazy to see these things, being set up as like houses out on the lakes for an entire season. Uh-oh, we got a comment. Markham versus Vexlar.
What do I need to do? You want to put that shirt up a little bit, Laz? No, we don't love it. We don't love a certain brand. No, not us. We don't absolutely love it.
Jeff, that's a question, I guess, that could be answered a million different ways, but it really comes down to, what are you trying to do? What are you looking for? And it's a Chevy Ford thing, right? I mean, you've got so many players in the industry right now, and whether it be Humminbird, Garmin, Lowrance, Markham, Vexlar, there's so many different options for people. But when it comes time to ice, take a look at what each one of these companies are and what they do. And when you look at the Garmins of the world and the Humminbirds and the Lowrance, they're open water first. Their main focus is strictly open water. And don't get me wrong, that forward-facing sonar stuff is super cool, but it's also a detriment and very cumbersome to carry around and move around. Now, you take the two ice companies, Markham and Vexlar, and you put two of those head to head, and Vexlar makes some nice stuff. I mean, it's very durable. It's proven itself for how many decades, and it's going to do the job. I'm still 100% a flasher guy. I love my M5s, and it'd be pretty hard for me to get rid of that on my everyday fishing trips. Do I use all the other the forward facing and the 360? Sure, we all do. I mean, as guides, we have to be able to provide that type of a service to our clients. But is it something that I use every day if I'm going out by myself? No. I'll be the first one to tell you that I don't use forward facing sonar anywhere near that what most of these guys do. Even in my boat, very seldom do I ever put it down. It's great when we're trying to find basin fish and stuff like that. It works nice, but for the most part, if I'm going out fishing, my M5 weighs next to nothing. I can carry that thing around, drop it in on any hole I want to. And the one thing that I think kind of sets Markham apart from everybody else is when it comes time to interference or getting that super clean, crystal clear signal. Their power and their system, how everything talks together, I think excels over any of the other flasher units that are out there. when it comes time to if guys prefer that LCD and they want to use that LX7, I'll put that LX7 up against any LCD on the market as far as speed. There is little to no lag at all, where when you're watching like a Helix or something like that, you've got that little bit of delay in your screen, and you're not going to get that with the Markham stuff. So again, it goes back to it's a Chevy Ford thing, but there are some things that kind of set Markham apart on the ice side of things. They will always be ice centric. They will focus everything for an ice angler. And if guys want to use it in their boat, I use my MX7 in my boat all the time. I've used my flashers in the boat for perch fishing. They work great, and they make summer transducers for your boats, or you can get the pucks to go on your trolling motors if you like. But that's kind of my sense. You guys can chime in too.
I was just gonna ask Laz. We were actually at St. Paul together, rooming, and it was maybe 5 to 5:30 in the morning. And I look over, and Laz is tinkering with his shuttle for forward-facing sonar. So I know which one you use, but you use both, right? You like using both.
I do. I'm like Troy. I am a big fan of the traditional flasher. Something that I really appreciate that Markham has is the NBT, the narrow beam transducer. When you're around certain cover or even in deep water, one of the guys from Markham I was had the privilege of fishing with. We were in some pretty deep, Iowa, we don't have deep water. We're not talking 70, 80, 90 feet of water. And I had the opportunity to go fish up some of the guys. And I had never fished Tulabee before, and so I got to do that, and that was on my bucket list. And I was having a hard time seeing it. And then he explained, what it does and how it could help, and what it does as far as deeper water goes. And man, let me tell you, after showing that to me and really using the tools effective and like how they're meant to be used for, it's unreal. It's amazing.
That built in when the LX5 was designed. This goes back to the LX before it went to the M5. When they were going through and we were working on the whole development of that, with the narrow beam and that super fine line feature on the 5s, if you're a weed fisherman, I'm sorry, but there is not one unit out there that'll even come close to performing what an M5 will do when you're fishing in the weeds. You can dial out so much of that other crap and just see what's right below you and shoot through those weeds. And I don't, any forward-facing sonar, anything you want to put up against me on that, I will prove anybody wrong. That M5 excels, especially with that narrow beam. You go from a 19-degree, when you're fishing a 19-degree cone, you're seeing all this other crap that's off to the side. That's great for shallow water if you're in clear water, because you can see more water and see more area. But when I'm concentrating in a weed pocket, I don't want to see all that other stuff. I want to see what's right there by my jig, and you can still see a little bit as fish kind of swim into your cone angle. But then you hit that super fine line and it narrows up all those segments on your screen. And now if you had a weed that was just giving you one little bit of a segment, boom, that's gone. And now you just get even a little bit clear on top of that. I don't know. There's no other way to explain it. If I'm weed fishing, give me an M5 any day of the week.
And to your point, Troy, something that I really love about Markham is just, you take a look at the lower priced units of like the M1 compared to the FL8. The things, I have an M1 and I have the MX7. So I have, this one and this one, kind of both spectrums. And I absolutely love the zoom feature on the M1. That is something that, you don't see in that priced with other competitors. And so the ability to drop down and have that zoom feature to block that off and have one side and one side just to see, I got a fish, 15 feet up. I need to go check that out, see if I can't get him to bite. And in terms of, you mentioned it, is the interference rejection. People who don't have Markhams do not like fishing next to me because, and it's awesome because I push the IR button one time and I don't have to touch it again. And everybody around me is like, sitting there tinkering with their other units. And I just sit and fish and I smile and enjoy it because Markham does a very, very good job with interference rejection.
My clients will contest. I put 6, sometimes 7 guys in a fish house. Every single person has an M5, and it takes me 2 to 3 minutes every morning to set them all up, and every single person can fish with their own flasher and no interference. I would love to see anybody else try that.
I don't think you can.
No, I know you can. We've been playing that game and, shooting videos going back 20 years when we first started, taking the Vexilars and putting 2 or 3, next to each other and trying to get the interference out, and you couldn't. And here we're putting 6, 7 units all in the same room, and I can get rid of interference on every single one of them. Jeff has, he says, I got the FL8 and M3, and I usually go to the FL8.
People have their preference. People have their preference.
Again, it's a preference thing. I'd be curious to see what the reasoning was, or what what do you find better on what the 8 and the 3 is. When you were talking about the M1, when you start comparing, flashers and stuff, what you're going to get with an M1 for entry level into the Markham flasher units, you'd have to jump all the way up into an FL18 in the Vexilar side of things at a much higher price tag. And even at that, they're still going to excel and outbeat what the competition can do when it comes time to power and interference and the zoom and all that kind of stuff. So, if you're in the market, that M1 will do everything and anything any ice fisherman could ever dream of.
Yep. What about you, Logan? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just gonna add to that. I have the M1, but I put it on a lithium shuttle. Dude, I don't even know if I charged it last year all season. I mean, the thing, it's overkill. It really is. But I'll tell you what, I didn't want to charge it, and the thing ran for just weeks. Putting that lithium shuttle on there and on an M1 was super overkill, but man, was it nice to if the MX7, if I didn't charge that the night before, if I'm heading out, oh well, I got my M1. It hasn't been charged in a week, but it's still got juice, man.
Yeah, for certain. Laz, what were you gonna say, bud?
No, I was just gonna ask Logan what he preferred. I know he talked about the M1. Are you more of a traditional flasher kind of guy yourself, or what?
I like both. I really do. I do side towards the traditional style. I like digital in certain areas, but I'll tell you, I'll tell you this. I like using traditional flasher styles when I am outside of the shack. I really like using digital when I'm inside a little bit. I can control the brightness of that and everything if I'm fishing dark, fishing light. So that's really nice too, for the digital, but I like both. I have both, and I run both. And just like to Troy's point, he has forward facing, but he also has sonar flasher for like Markhams and things like that. And I think it's awesome to be able to use forward-facing sonar to be able to locate schools. If I need to turn and go this way, and then once you find the schools, being able to drop down your traditional flasher or things like that to actually fish them out and not have that intense power, pumping down below. You have a 2-1 punch that is just unstoppable. It really is. So both have their place, and depending on what you want to spend, there's some fantastic units out there. But I think we spent 30 minutes talking about Vexilar versus Markham. But I'll tell you what, it's good conversation, and the biggest thing is just informing people of our opinions, because we use them often.
Yeah, I will say, when I'm open water fishing, no weeds, no structure, fish in a basin, I love watching the MX or my LX7, because you can see the history of the fish, right? Everything goes across the screen, and you can see how these fish, either shot up really fast or are coming in from the side and just kind of hanging there. You get a little bit more idea on what's happening underneath you watching a digital screen on the 2D sonar versus just watching your flash that's instantaneous.
Mm-hmm. I used to be a big Vexlar guy. When I first started ice fishing, for me, it was easy to learn to read. You just drop it down and you kind of go. And then I saw Markham, and I bought a Markham, and that was it. It was game over.
Yeah, great things. I can't wait to see what the future holds for sure.
It can only go up from here. I mean, I was just talking to Kyle Agri on episode 6 that's going to be released right after this on the Long Ice Outdoors podcast. But we were talking about just where it's going. I look behind me and you can look at the Alpha and you can look at the E40, right? The auger compared to where it was 30 years ago is completely changed, right? I mean, we have gone with technology and electric routes. I mean, people are throwing away their 50-pound propane augers and going electric. And I'll tell you, I think you guys can agree. I feel like it's here to stay, for that type of, specifically talking about augers. But in terms of flashers and just technology, when it comes to locating fish, it's exciting, man, because it's going to go up from here, and it already feels like cheating now with forward facing sonar, but I'm super excited to see where it can go. What are the limits, right?
The biggest thing, and it's been talked about and it's been beat to death, is these lakes will not survive if they continue on the path and holding regulations the same as what they are right now. The more of this stuff becomes, just part of everyday fishing with guys, and the prices are coming down, more affordable, you're going to see these small lakes just get fished out. That's my biggest concern with all this stuff, is it's just making it super easy. I am very, very aware of all the lakes that I have around here. And sure, we will go out and use them, and we will find the fish, and don't get me wrong, we'll beat up on them, but I also set my own limits. I will not let a lot of my clients keep what, let's say if a lake says 25, I'm setting it at 10, period. If you want to argue with me, don't come and fish with me, because we have to protect what our resources that are out there. And it'd be super easy to just go and wipe these lakes out. I mean, it really is, but we can't. I mean, we have to monitor ourselves and police ourselves, and make sure that we're being responsible as far as what we're doing. All this electronic stuff is great, and it's definitely helping us, find more fish. I will say, there are days, I don't care, you can find them all you want, those damn things don't eat.
I think that's the best part of ice fishing, is just flip a coin for what's going to happen. A guy next to me could be fishing with the most beautifully painted, flashy, dancing around, complete finesse jigging, and I could be sitting there with a hook and a minnow and just slaying them. It just depends. It's such a coin flip, and I think that's the most exciting thing of ice fishing, is every time you walk out on hard water, you don't know what's going to happen. And Randon actually said it, Troy, in the last episode, or last show that you guys did. I believe he said, fish the pattern and not the spot. And I really loved that. And I loved, just thinking about that and thinking, fish the pattern, not the spot, because you could think back to the spot, the honey hole that you were on, and it may not produce, those fish are out of there or they're inactive. So fish the pattern, go back to, all right, go to plan B, plan C, plan D. And that was just a big takeaway, that I took from the last show here. So.
Yeah, let's touch on that just for a minute. And that goes all year long, 365 days out of the year. Network with people, especially if you're going to new lakes. I'll never forget, back in my early days when Muskie First and Outdoors First, all those websites got started. It's probably old school. There's probably not a whole lot of people that know about them anymore because of the Facebook and that, but we did an outing up on Sabaskong Bay up in Lake of the Woods. And there was, I don't know, maybe 20 guys. And what we did, and these are 20 of the best muskie fishermen in, the upper Midwest. These guys were good. And what we did is we took a giant map of Sabaskong Bay, and we had a bunch of pins. Everybody went out fishing. We came back, we sat down, had a few drinks, talked about the day, and then everybody went and put a pin where they seen fish, and then another color pin where they, caught fish. And after 2 days, we just studied the map, and we were figuring out the pattern very quickly. And all we did then is took the entire map and okay, there's going to be fish here, 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 and here. Go out the next day out in the boat, and boom, every spot we went to, we would see fish or mark fish. It was literally, we were calling our shots because we figured out the pattern, not a spot on spot, because it didn't matter, because we figured out, all right, everything was behind big boulders with lily pads. And if you found big boulders with lily pads on the backside of it, there were muskies swimming around. It just didn't matter where you went. You could go anywhere and find that pattern, and it worked. Same when it comes time to ice fishing. Now, you guys are a little bit more blessed up in Minnesota because you have natural lakes that have, true structure.
Good structure. Yeah.
We don't have that by us. We have a flooded marsh. I mean, that's all it is. It's 4 to 6 feet. There's no rocks. There's no weeds. There's nothing. It is just a sand flat. But that doesn't mean that those patterns don't develop, because when you look at where these fish go, we may have just a 1 or 2 foot contour change. It's all it takes. People don't look at those maps and read and look at, waypoints and figure out, okay, it is a river system, so there's current that follows through. And anywhere you get just a little 1 or 2 foot contour change, currents change, and everything else, whether it be bait that's flowing through there or whatnot, something about that changes and, concentrates fish in those areas. We find fish, walleyes, all the time in water less than 1.5 foot underneath the ice, all the time. Why? Because there's current and there's bait, and these fish are following bait. Wherever fresh oxygen or whatnot's coming through because of the rivers, these walleyes are going to go. They don't care how deep it is. They're just looking for food. So fish patterns, don't fish spots. 100% agreed there.
And, if I was heading down to Iowa to meet up with Laz to go fishing, it might be a completely different experience than what I'm used to around these lakes or, out by you, Bluegill. It's going to be different, right? So having those connections, forming those relationships, and just having fun while out there learning to fish new bodies of water is what it's all about, honestly.
Yep. And it works both ways. Laz, I mean, I could come down there by you and be like, hey, do you ever fish over on this part of the lake? And be like, nah, it never works. And then you go and you just try it and you start figuring things out. That was probably one of the biggest things I ever took away as far as tournament fishing goes, traveling from east to west across the entire United States, chasing walleyes. Everything I'd learned over in the New York side of the country, I'd come back and try stuff over here, and you might have to tweak things a little bit, but by golly, we were the only ones doing it because they had never seen any of the stuff that they were doing out east. Same thing, you go out west, you pick up on all these different things, and having a good network of friends, like you guys going and fishing with you guys, you're just going to teach each other more and more, and you're going to learn stuff and try stuff on your own bodies of water that, you may have never thought even think about doing, before that. Sorry, Lars, I interrupted you.
No, that's all right. We day and age now where really our resources they're everywhere, right? I mean, we have so many things now that we can use to our advantage. I mean, think about it. Between apps on our phones, maps, bait shops, I mean, you name it, and it's endless. There's always something, and it's just putting the puzzle pieces in the right spot and using the tools we have nowadays and work, right? Like a little bit of sweat, and I guarantee you, once you find that pattern, like you said, Troy, it's game on, man.
Yeah, dynamite always works too.
It does, and yeah, not frowned upon at all. Troy, you need to read John's comment. Conservation will be key. Okay, he didn't say dynamite works wonders. All right.
There may have been a few dozen times that we threw some dynamite in the water to kill some carp when we were kids growing up.
Oh boy, I don't know if we need to dive into those. Maybe after we're off live, we can dive into that. We don't need you getting called in for something that happened 20, 30 years ago.
Well, let's go back to ice camping here. So somebody that wants to get started, and they're looking for a shack. There's kind of two shacks that really excel that Eskimo has. One is their 650 XD, and then their 850 XD. And it really comes down to, the configuration. The 650 is going to be more like a hexagon, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
6-sided or five-sided. I don't know.
The door, I don't know if you count the door. It's kind of weird how it's configured, but I would call it a hexagon if I had to.
Yep. The nice thing about the Outbreak series compared to going back to the early days of the hub shacks is you've got a full size door that is not a trip hazard. It's easy to get stuff in and out of. You still have a D door on the other side of the shack, but that full size door is a lifesaver.
Game changer.
Yep.
I want to tell you guys a real quick story. Some of you guys may have known it or heard it, but I had some clients out a couple years back, and these guys were high rollers. They had I think it was like a 60-year-old bottle of scotch with them. Street value is like probably 15 grand, right? And they're pouring drinks, these little glasses pouring scotch, and each drink was probably 2 grand or better, right? And they're getting pretty liquored up, and they're drinking this stuff, and they offered me one, and I had never tried scotch before, and I swear to God, I think I could have ran my ice augers on the stuff. But that old stuff was really smooth, and it got me thinking. It's like, yeah, I could maybe try something like this until I figured out how much that stuff was, and the cheap stuff doesn't taste anything like that did. So the guy's carrying around a bottle that's probably about a third of the way gone. And I had a 949i set up, and there were a couple guys in there. Opens the D door, walks, and he trips over the door carrying this bottle of scotch and spills it in the snow. And everybody was just like, oh, well, quit goat thinking, right? They just started picking up the snow and squeezing it and making snow cones and trying to get every last bit of that scotch out of there. But had we had the Outbreak, we wouldn't be even talking about that. So that was kind of my funny story on the D doors and what can happen. But when you have those wide open doors, if you're are big guys, we take a lot of people out that are handicapped, that can't walk around, or in wheelchairs. They can wheel in and out. It's very easy to get your gear in and out of the shacks, and people as well. So the 650, 850, you got your two shacks. You need a couple cots. We'll touch, Logan, maybe you even know. Let's talk heaters. What's going to be the best heater? Propane, the diesel heaters are a big thing.
Yeah.
Guys using wood stoves. What do you find?
Yeah. Honestly, Troy, I think we're not there yet with diesel heaters. We haven't seen, and maybe we will, but right now you're seeing a lot of homemade. You're seeing a lot of, I saw one in a box that was set up with all the components and the exhaust going in, which is a really cool concept. But in terms of for the masses, it's going to be the 20-pounder attached to some type of heating source propane, no matter what you use. Whether that's a Buddy, Heat Hog, and using the Flame King products, awesome products themselves, to refillables and things like that. So it's still there. That's still what it is, in my personal opinion. It's still going to be propane. I stray away, and people ask me, what do you think about wood stoves? I'm not there yet. And that type of fabric, it's a really good insulated fabric. I'm just not comfortable with a wood stove yet. Now, do I think that down the road and in the future, we're going to see more manufacturers creating hub styles or flip over shelters? Probably not flip over shelters, mainly hubs, bigger hubs, where you would do extended stays. but we might see some creativeness when it comes to actually manufactured right out of the box, to where they can, put the chute, put the chimney out the window, door, what have you, right? In terms of just heating, it's still going to be propane in this point in time in 2024, in my personal opinion. Now, I do think if I were to go back and start from scratch or what have you, I think a diesel heater is awesome. And a couple reasons for that. The main reason is going to be the dry heat, right? When you have propane, it's that wetness and you get that condensation. Now, the Eskimo fabrics, I have tested them thoroughly. They do a very good job of not getting dripped on when you're out there for long stays. So that is the biggest one, right? And the second biggest one is a safety factor, and that is you don't have to carry a carbon monoxide detector out with you, right? When you're using the propane, highly recommend having that with you if you are doing extended stays. If you are going through the weekend, long weekend, what have you, take that CO detector with you, because you could, I've seen people coughing and, getting sick, and you just don't want to even take the chance. Get that in there. And again, if you're using the propane, get a good little fan and put it up in your 650 or your 850. That's going to circulate that heat more and really create just a better, more air in there, and just kind of delete carbon monoxide a little bit better, if you will. So that is where I would say where the heating options, if you're doing ice camping, is still propane at this point. Am I looking forward to where it goes in 2024, 2025 and beyond? I am, because I think companies are seeing, especially in the Midwest, specifically in the Midwest here, Wisconsin, Dakotas, Minnesota, Iowa, you're seeing a lot of people really like diesel heaters. And I hope we're going to see more of an advancement for those. Not only people homemade making them, but companies might start getting on board with, hey, there's a demand here. There's a need. We have people wanting to get into overnights, taking the family out and spending a long weekend out in a portable shelter, a 650 or an 850. And you're right. Those are the two. 450 is a little bit small, a little too small. When we were at work and ice shows and things like that throughout this year, the end of 23, we had a lot of people asking, I'm wanting to get into ice camping. What would you recommend? The only two that I would recommend are the 650 and the 850, depending on how many people you would take with you. If it was just you, I personally run the 650. I don't really camp in it much, just because I'm a big guy. I love the door. I love the height. You got 84 inches. I can stand up. I'm 6'5". I can stand up at there, big, broad shouldered, walk in, put the gear in, what have you. Flooring is a huge one. That is paramount. Get that good, thick inch plus, don't get anything less than an inch. I would do an inch or more of good quality. Don't you get what you pay for with a lot of things. And when it comes to those foam mats, get a nice one, where you can feel it. There's some good ones on Amazon. They have a lot of reviews, things like that, or you go to your local store and see if they have some options for that, those puzzle pieces that go together. But flooring, that's the first thing that gets cold is your feet. And once that happens, it can be lights out. You can be done early and have to set up shop because your feet got cold. So those are just a couple things that I see for at least going back to the heating options. It's still going to be running that hose through or underneath the shelter, and just having propane for this time being. But again, like I said, I hope it continues to, companies get innovative and we see more and more with other heating sources.
Yep. So John asked a question here. What about filling empty regular 1 pound tanks? Guys do it a lot. Dumb thing to do. I've been doing it for as long as I can remember, right? We bought that Mr. Heater, had an adapter, you screwed in your 20 pounder. People did all kinds of home things, putting bottles in their freezers and whatnot. But essentially, Flame King came out with a refillable system that is approved. It's been tested. It's approved for transportation, fully legal, fully safe. It is meant to be refilled, and there's so many benefits to it, right? The fact that when you buy a 1 pound tank, especially now, I think some of them crepes I've seen them as high as like $7 a piece for one 1-pounder. You got to remember, you've only got about 20 cents of material in a $6.50 package.
100%.
It's such a waste. And I've been using the Flame King refillables now, probably going on 5 or 6 years. And I come home. That's the first thing I do once I get done guiding for the day. I come home. I've got a 30-pounder that's up on one of my pallet racks, and I will sit and refill all my 1-pounders right away. And I do it, I'd say 8 to 10 bottles every single day at a minimum. Sometimes we're doing a dozen or more, depending on how many heaters we got going. But
and Troy, we had a comment come in here from John using other. He's asked using empty Coleman tanks. What are your thoughts on that in terms of, do you stick to just the Flame King? If it's a Flame King product, Flame King specific, have you tried other bottles out there, or you just stick with that one?
Yeah. So going back, kind of where I was going is, Flame King has a design that allows you to do it safely. And if guys are going to if you still do the old 1-pound Colemans or the Warringtons or whatnot, the biggest thing is when you refill these things is you have to replace the air with liquid. And there's no way to do it safely. Every disposable tank has a little Schrader valve on the outside of the tank. There's a little tiny hole, and a little Schrader valve kind of is the same thing as what like a valve stem on a tire or whatnot looks like. If you're going to fill them, a quick little tip: don't put your bottles in the freezer. Don't, try and cool one and warm the other. All you do, flip your 20-pounders, your tanks upside down, start, filling your tank, and just pull that Schrader valve out. Because what's going to happen then is the air is going to push out, the gas will escape, and the liquid will come in. And that's how you can fill those things. I don't recommend that. I mean, you're going to, the disposable tanks are just that. They're disposable. The valves that are in there are one-time use valves. You might get away with being able to fill them a few times, but every time that I've ever done that, after about 2 or 3 times, you start to leak. And I can remember back in the day, you go and open up a back of a truck, and it's like, oh man, don't light a match, because the whole truck would leave the ground. That's where Flame King came in. And the tanks they're built like a miniature 20-pound tank. They're not just a cheap, flimsy steel that you can bend the tops. They're meant to be refilled hundreds and hundreds of times, and the quality is there. I can't stress it enough. If you've never seen it, please definitely take a look at it. You're going to save so much money. I can't imagine how much money I've saved over the last 5-6 years using these tanks. I mean, it's ridiculous.
For sure.
And if you're in the plumbing business, or, in the restaurant business where you're using torches and whatnot all the time, man, save yourself some money and get these systems. I've got buddies that I set up their plumbing vans. They've got 20 or 30 pounders in milk crates tipped upside down with the valves. So if they run out of propane, all they do is they come out to the truck, hook their bottle up, squeeze the lever, puts the liquid in, gas comes out, crack the little valve that's on top of the tank when you're filling. It takes less than a minute to fill a 1-pounder, and you're back in business again, and you don't have to worry about nothing.
Mm-hmm. Hope that answered John's question there.
Yeah.
I want to bring something up to you, Troy. I was actually seeing more and more of this as I have been within the ice fishing groups on social media, but I've been seeing a lot of solar powered generators, smaller to larger. And I looked at one ad, and all of a sudden that's all I see on social media now when I scroll, right? That's listening. But I've been seeing different things. I believe one of them is called the EcoFlow or Anchor Solix, and they're these 1,500. They have some really good deals going on right now. So it seems like. But I've been seeing these solar generator, and I've been thinking to myself, man, for ice camping, it really would be nice to have. A lot of them come with 4 to 5 outlets where you can plug in 110s, and also your USBs, your carport charger. It really it got me thinking, man, maybe this is worth the investment, because not only, especially for guys who film, as you know, it can be, you can go through batteries very, very quickly. So having the ability to plug into something, and if I'm overnight camping, you have your phone charger. If you use any type of a CPAP device, you can stay out there with that, goes throughout the night. And just having charging capabilities, I think that we're seeing a bigger push into more and more companies getting better and better products and making sure that they're rated for negative degree temperatures. A lot of them don't recommend operating under 32 degrees. Well, obviously, as ice fishermen and women, that's not going to fly with us. So that's something that, have you seen a lot of that, Troy? And is it something where, is that a good thing to have? Because in my head, I'm thinking, boy, that would be really nice to set up on a table next to put in the corner of my 650, have that charging everything, and lights included. But I just wanted to get your take on that as I was scrolling through social media.
Yeah, no. So it's funny you mentioned that, because where I've got my pond, I'm trying to find renewable sources for powering aerators, and these portable solar generators are the ticket. A lot of these pond guys now are starting to install these for aerators, because it doesn't require any energy. And you know what? If you have a couple cloudy days and you lose power, 2 days of not having aeration in the pond ain't going to kill anything. And as soon as that sun comes back out, you're creating power again, and you're back in business. But for emergency uses, for camping, not
use
just
at home too,
winter
right?
camping,
Not just
too,
fishing. Yeah.
in the boat. I mean, rather than carrying a power inverter and stuff like that out in the boat, it's a very valuable tool. We live out in the sticks, so we've got generators, but even at that, when we first moved out here, when we lose power, it's not for an hour or two. It's typically, for a couple days or better. And just having that extra peace of mind, knowing, yep, I can plug in, a fan or my chargers for my phone or a radio, just anything extra. It's definitely something nice to have. Again, it's, how much do you want to bring out on the ice with
That's
you?
just it.
You're going to just,
you spend thousands and thousands of dollars on this towable, this generator, solar generator. It's going to be, but I think there's a place for, more of the mid-sized units to smaller units, just to get a few items charged throughout your stay, and being able to, under 20 pounds, throw it, I saw one for 27 pounds. You could plug it into your truck. If you have an outlet in your truck, charges up in less than an hour. Super convenient just to have with you all the time. Not only for ice fishing, throw it in the boat. If something happens where you lose power here, it gets turned on pretty quickly where I'm at, not days on end. But like you said, just for quick, convenient power to get things charged and get things, moving. I really like the idea. And now I if you're listening and you're a company out there that makes these, start making them somewhat waterproof and start making them rated for under 32 degrees, because ice fishermen and women would absolutely love that, as something that's affordable, but also durable as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to the diesel heater thing, the first company that comes out with a complete ready to basically run a hose for an exhaust, a power source, everything all in one. Turn it on, set your temperature. You hit a home run. I mean, you're winning the ball game. Yep. Show me the money.
Absolutely. Take my money, because I've been talking to people about that, guys, pros and guides and things like that. And I've been like, man, if somebody could come up with an all-in-one, not too big, where you could just, take it with you, kind of like a tote, and have everything in there with buttons on the top. Boy, I'll tell you what, I don't care what it costs. I would throw money at them if they came up with that, because again, you got that dry heat going through, you set the temperature on it, you throw it in your 650 or 850, you got some outlets to plug in for some fans and lights and things like that. Boy, take my money, because that would be a game changer.
And for people though that don't understand, when we talk about dry heat versus what LP does, when propane burns, it creates a condensation. And even in your house, we're on LP out here in the country, and our house is typically is a lot more humid than, say, a house that's burning on natural gas. It's just because that LP creates moisture when it burns. So when you're inside a shack, and obviously the advancements of materials and insulation in our portables have gotten a lot better over the years, it doesn't mean that, when you're burning LP, your windows are steaming up, or you're getting moisture in there. That's coming from the LP burning. Diesel heat does not create any of that moisture. You are blowing warm, dry air, and that is such a difference when it comes time to being warm. And just like anything, right? Whether you're outside and you get wet, you're going to get cold. And you sweat and you go back outside, you're going to get cold. So if you're inside a shack, and granted it's warm, but you've got all that moisture, getting sucked into your apparel, your hands, in you go outside, you're going to get cold really quick. That dry heat it can't be beat.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hope we see more and more advancements. I love seeing people's creativity when it comes to putting, putting their homemade diesel heaters together, and even some of the ones that you find online where people are buying them, they're working. I just am not confident enough yet to go out and purchase one for myself. I wouldn't mind doing some testing, but in terms of overall, if I had to grab something, I'm going to go old reliable and just grab propane. That's for right now. I really do hope that we get there, though, as a sport and as an industry, to where we have that dry heat, without bringing the CO2 the carbon monoxide detectors and things like that. It's going to be a game changer. And it's certainly exciting to see where we can go from here, because it's already seems like we've come up with a lot of advancements in terms of fabrics and shelters, augers, electronics. We've just really seen some big advancements over the years, and it can only go up from here.
I always get excited, come February, when we go to the sales meetings with all these companies, and take a look and see what they've been working on, for the entire year, and what's new. And it's exciting, as many times as you say, boy, why didn't we think of that? Or, what can they think of next? Well, it happens, and there's always something cool and neat. And as many times as we say, well, you can't really beat this, it's going to happen. I mean, especially now when you start looking at, all the artificial intelligence stuff that's out there, utilizing that for engineering and, product development. It's taking it beyond the human brain now and putting it into computers and trying to figure out solutions to problems. And that's how I've always looked at, ice fishing or working with all these companies is, let's not necessarily come out with something new. Let's come out with a better mousetrap. Let's figure out, okay, what problems do anglers have? And let's find a solution for that. I guess that's the way I've always looked at when it comes time to developing stuff. And a lot of times, if you can get a group of guys together that are pretty knowledgeable and, sit down and brainstorm with this, a lot of cool stuff has come out of that.
Yeah.
John says regulations are going to have to change with all of our advances. Year round, the fish are screwed. maybe we build too, unless we conserve. And 100% agreed. And again, I'll say this to my grave is, guys, don't look at a successful day on the water as taking home a limit of fish. Throw some back. It doesn't hurt to throw a few back. Look at a successful day on the water as making memories, catching some fish, enjoying it with whoever you're out there with, and getting back to shore and back to home safe. What more can you ask for when it comes time to success? So many days I go out, I may not catch a fish, but I don't care. I learned something, and that's a successful day in my part. I'm way past the point of having to go out there and put 100 fish on the ice or in the boat anymore. Granted, those days are awesome, but you don't have to kill everything anymore.
Yeah. I myself, I'm pretty strictly catch and release, and I always have been. I really appreciate the sport for what it is. And there are a few times where, I will help catch dinner, specifically my father-in-law loves nice bluegills and things like that. And so, but in terms of sizing, there are some that we need to put back because it's like, okay, that's looking like a big bowl. That could really be something, if we let that thing swim around for a little bit longer. But that's, for me, it's strictly been catch and release. And just because ice fishing to me is communal, right? It's gathering of people, and doesn't even have to be friends and family, strangers. I've met some of the best people, and like you, I met at a show not too long ago and just hit it off and talked ice fishing. And when you get out there with people and you talk ice fishing, people are passionate about it. And that's the thing that I love the most. And that's the main reason why I created Long Ice Outdoors, where I wanted to keep the passion here for as long as possible, because sharing those stories, those memories, things like that is really what I love, because you can think back to the fish that you caught. But if I ask you, Troy, go back to a time where you can tell me your most exciting or your most exciting trip out on the ice, 9 times out of 10, you may not think about the fish. It's normally with the people you surrounded yourself with, the things that you did, the jokes that you played on each other, the laughs that you shared. And that's what it's all about, right? I mean, it's completely communal, with community based, and that's where it's at for me, just being with people and friends and meeting new people and, sharing the passion of the sport.
You couldn't have hit that one any better. People ask me all the time, why ice fishing? When you're in a boat for 8 hours with 3 guys, 4 guys, whatever, the story, granted, there's some guys that get in the boat and we can tell stories and joke and have an awesome day on the water. Can't take that away. Spending time out on the boat is awesome. But there's something about on the ice. There's typically a lot more passion with people on the ice about ice fishing. It's that niche, right? Muskie anglers, they're diehard muskie anglers. The ice fishermen, most ice guys I know, they're diehard ice guys. And then there's just fishermen and
outdoorsmen.
I mean, they don't care the time of year. They just want to go out and fish. But when you get those groups of guys that are they live to be out on the ice, it shows. I mean, that passion shows. But for me, why I like it so much is I can get, 3, 4 groups of guys out on the lake at the same time. And it's camaraderie, right? Just like what you said, in the beginning of the day, I've got, let's just say 3, 4 groups of guys that have never met each other, known each other. And by the end of the day, they're fishing each other's shacks. They're sharing stories. They're becoming friends. We're sitting around a grill having lunch together. And I'm sorry, but you can't do that anywhere else. Unless you've got a great big boat or something like that where you can put 30 people on it. That's the only thing that you're going to be able to, to even come close to what we do out on the ice. And if you've never experienced it, please come out and do it. Because once you get into that, it's so hard to, when ice goes away, it's sad because we know that we got to wait another year before we can do this again. Just like all these shows and the people that we meet. We go to open water fishing shows and we see, people and, we chat and say, hey, yeah, how's it going? But when we go to these ice shows, it's like a family reunion and all of us get together and we go out, we have drinks, we go back to each other's hotel rooms, catch up on everybody's family life. And it is a giant family of people that share the same passion that we all share. And it really, there is no explanation. If you're not part of it and you've never been a part of something like that, you're really missing out.
Yeah. And the thing I love the most too is, people like their brands, right? Like you can see the 3 behind me and I got my Elliott bag next to me. I love certain brands, right? And people are with certain brands and things like that. But if you go to certain things like ice fishing shows, it doesn't matter what brand it is. People are talking, how's the wife? How are the kids? How was the season, last year? It's just a big old family of just no different than meeting on a Thanksgiving table and catching up with the old, long lost relatives. So yeah, it is super cool to hear, but meet new people, and just form relationships with them. And you really don't get that with open water seasons and hunting, unless you're at a hunting shack with all friends and family and things like that. But ice fishing has its own unique type of demographic when it comes to things like that.
Yeah, for certain. And take away all the, the competition and the brand loyalty. And you know what? I go out fishing with clam guys. I go out fishing with otter guys. I go fishing with, Lowrance people and Humminbird people and Garmin people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any of that. I see the fisherman. I see the guy. I see the friend. And whatever he's using, I'm not going to hold anything against him. It sucks when he doesn't catch as many fish as what we do, but I guess we can offer him some of our own equipment.
I'll tell you, the friendly competition, man, you cannot beat that, especially if you got guys that like certain brands or certain companies. It just makes it fun. It's friendly. It's fun. It's all love here. There's no hate. No matter what you like. If you bleed red, you bleed blue, you bleed gray. It don't matter, right? It's all about the sport and conservation and just staying healthy, staying safe while you're out there. All big topics to make sure that we can continue doing that, and make it home at night and sharing those stories and memories with people. That's what it's all about, for sure.
Yeah, 100% agreed. Well, sir, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I know you want to get your podcast dropped. I got to go plow snow one more time so the wife can get out of the driveway in the morning.
Yeah.
And,
one of the things too, I wanted to mention, if you haven't checked out, Eskimo just released this year, or last year, I should say, the eHub system. And if you're ice camping, those are really cool to have, because not only are they going to fit all the new models that Eskimo's released, but they're also going to be able to fit all the older models, even the old green 3 eyes, so you take your 10mm socket, put it on there, and you have a phone holder, you have a table, you have a rod holder, camera holders, so that was something that I wanted to recommend as well. If you haven't checked out the eHub system by Eskimo, I would highly recommend it. And I gotta work on. I got to release the episode, but I gotta get my new Elliott dead stick spooled up with some good old Seagar, and just ripping it, man. Right? I mean, I gotta get my bait feeder ready to go, and
I've been spooling. I've got about 125 ice combos, and I do so many a night. Every year. Go through, re-rig everything, go through line, put new leaders on, put new baits on, get everything all kind of set. And it seems like I'm doing it like 2 times this year, because I'm just waiting and I got nothing else to do and just going through tackle and gear. And I spent some time today, in the shop re-spooling, also, a bunch of new stuff. Seagar came out with 3 new lines this year for the IceX, was it 10, 12, and 15 pounds, new leader material basically for me, and spooled up some of my bigger walleye rods and my trout rods for when we can get out on Green Lake and chase some lake trout. And it's when you guide, when you're out there, there's never a free moment, I guess. Really, there's always something that can be done, and there's always work to be done, for certain.
Absolutely. Well, man, I appreciate you having me on here, and for everybody that commented, that was super cool to have them on my platform as well. I'll go ahead and give you a plug here. You can find me at Long Ice Outdoors on social media. Just started it last year, so we're in the infancy stages, but got a podcast that's comes out every Tuesday for right now for the foreseeable future. Usually gets released that night. We've had guests like Brandon Olson and Kyle Agri, some well-known names in the industry. So come over there and check me out, and certainly check out Mr. Bluegill as well, because he doesn't do it better than he does it better than everybody else. He's just the guy that everybody looks up to, myself included.
Well, I appreciate that. I love having people on. I can sit and talk fishing all the time, but
We
it's
could go
nice to
till
mix
3 a.m.
things up,
tonight,
and
man.
I
Talking
appreciate
fishing.
your time, and I know everybody's got busy schedules, and if anybody, if people, if you have somebody that you want to get online, please let me know. I mean, I've made friends with people all across the fishing and hunting industry. It doesn't matter if it's open water, ice fishing, hunting. If there's a topic that anybody wants to talk about, I'm pretty certain I can find somebody that will join us, and we'll get them online. So
And it was
please,
super cool to get Laws on here for just a little bit before he
yeah,
got
absolutely.
disconnected, and that's one of those things too, where I just met Laws not too long ago, and last
He's a
year.
super guy.
Oh man, tremendous. When I was rooming with him and everything, I just was sitting there picking his brain, and I'm not kidding. It was literally like 5 a.m. and the little hotel light that you have on the desk was on, and he was sitting there just tinkering with this shuttle that he was working on, and I was just like, man, it's like we got another hour, and a half before we got to get up and have breakfast. But he's a diehard, man. He's an absolute diehard, and great fisherman, even better person.
I wish he lived a little bit closer. I think he would like to be up here too, but with his kids and everything down there, it's hard to travel. But Laz, if you're still there, bud, we need to get you up here ice fishing this winter. Quit talking about it and get up here and fish.
Yes. And if you're heading this way, Troy, let's meet up with Rannon if we can and get out with him. I was telling him, I'm like, man, we gotta get a little group together, and go out there and share some stories and stuff. But
yeah, for certain. John said, DNR rep. That's a great,
Yes.
I've talked to a few of the wardens around here, and I'm working on that. And what I'd like to do is get him on here in the next couple of weeks and just kind of answer some questions that are more rumors than anything else. That's a great topic, and I'm working on getting a DNR guy on.
And let me know when you do, Troy, because I really want to hear that episode. I was thinking about trying to get somebody on Minnesota side of things, because I had somebody reach out to me and they said, hey, they just released, I don't know the number, I think 1,600 maybe walleye in certain lakes around this area, and they're all tagged, and they didn't really know what to do with the tag. They didn't know if they take a picture, send in the date, location, time caught, everything like that. They didn't know what to do, and I didn't know what to do either. So if you do find a DNR rep that could help answer that specific question or talk about that topic, it was such a random thing. He's like, I don't know what to do with this fit. What if I catch a fish that's tagged? I said, I'm not sure. I really don't know, and I need to know. I want to find that out. So keep your ear to the ground on that topic. Sure. For fish that are being tagged and what to do with them if you do catch one this season in the west central Minnesota area, because they spread them out, and I'd be curious to know what we do with them and why they're tagged, and just to monitor them or whatnot. So certainly an interesting topic that would provide a lot of value for people.
Yeah, so over on our system, on the Winnebago system, it's very common. I bet you I catch half dozen tagged walleyes every single year. More so in the spring, because that's when they're tagged. They go up. Our walleyes go up these spawning marshes, and when they're up in the marshes, the DNR go up there and they'll tag quite a few thousand fish every spring. And then as they come out of those rivers, right, we're catching them typically the day after they're tagged or whatnot. But it's couple different things that we do with them. They've got some tags that are actually worth money. They're radio tags, and if you catch one and you turn in the radio tag, they'll give you the $100 back or whatever. And other tags just have a number on them, and then they have an address of where. And for the most part, everything in this system is going to be tagged, up in one of our marshes. But what's neat about it is you take that number, you can go online or send in an email with that number. If you're going to release the fish, please leave the tag in. Take the information off the tag, measure the fish, record where you got it, the date, whatnot, send that stuff in. And then what our DNR does is they actually send you a certificate that shows the date it was originally tagged, the location, how big it was, all that data. And then if you give them, the data that you, whatever your length, date, place, they'll tell you, yep, this fish traveled, X amount of miles. It's growing 2 inches or, whatever. And it's cool to see, but then put the fish back and let somebody else, catch that
with the
tag
tag, with the tag in it. Don't take it out and give it back to them. They keep it in there. Okay. Well, that's new. That's good because I somebody, like I said, somebody had asked me and I didn't want to tell them the wrong thing. So I appreciate that.
That's what we do. Some people, they collect it like they collect curls from a mallard, right? They,
right.
Up in their visors in their truck, they got all their tags from their walleyes and whatnot. And fish that we eat, I've got a pile of tags and certificates from all the fish that I've caught over the years. And but for the most part, if I catch one and we're not eating fish or whatever that day, if it's a tagged fish, I'll put it back, especially if it's in the river, because really at that point, we're not learning anything. It was just tagged probably a couple days prior. And what it's really neat is to let that fish go back out into the lake and, a year, 2 years from now, get caught and then see exactly, yep, this fish has traveled, 70 miles and it's now, way down on the south end of Lake Winnebago and it was tagged up in a spawning marsh 70 miles from here. That's
pretty cool stuff. That's pretty cool right there. That would be really cool to see.
And what's neat, and believe it or not, so the best tag that I ever caught in, I caught it out on, it was Lake Bötehouse by the 41 bridge, and 2 days it traveled almost like 75 miles. It came down from up where it was spawning, and I caught it down by the 41 bridge. It went through the entire system in 2 days, and just goes to show how fast these fish can move through when they want to get back to wherever they're going.
Man, that's pretty sweet.
So yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's cool information. But
yeah,
well, I appreciate it, and stay safe. Well, I'd love to come up and fish by you guys. I got to find a few days where I can jump in the truck and come up and visit you. I know we're headed to Puerto Rico here the first week of February for 10 days. Somewhere we're going to take the boy and do a little vacation just to get away. And typically it'd be like, finally, we get a break, get a good little rest in midst of all the ice fishing trips. But I haven't even been on the trip yet, so I'm not even tired. I'm gonna go spend a week down in 80 degrees and come back and freeze my ass off.
You know what's funny? It's funny you say that because last year I took a trip beginning to March. I think it was beginning of March, and didn't really know what this. It was late season, blah blah blah. We went down to Florida to see some family. Nice 85 degree day. I'll tell you what, man, and I hope this doesn't happen to you, but when I came back, I was like done. Like I was ready to pack up. I was like, I'm done ice fishing. I'm putting everything away. I don't know if it was just mental or what happened, but when I came back here, I was like, I'm good. I packed this stuff up like mid March, and we had good fishing for another few weeks. It just kind of spaced out a little while, but I hope that doesn't happen to you when you go down, go over there. So, because we haven't got out and really hit a hard fishing yet, like we're both planning to do here soon. So knock on wood.
Yeah, no, we've gone down to Mexico. Typically that first or second week in February is typically when we go on our vacations. We've been down to Hawaii, been down to Mexico, someplace super warm. And then when I come back, I'm just like, I'm like, God, what am I doing? I don't want to be out in this cold anymore. But, after 2 days, it's just like, boom, I'm right back into my grind. And
right.
I love it. When I go down to these warm places, 10 days, I'm maxed out, man, because I'm a cold weather person. Give me 20 degrees and sunshine, 365 days out of the year, and I'd be a happy person. I don't do good when it's 85, 90 degrees. My body just doesn't like it.
As
I get older, it'll change. But right now, I love my ice fishing.
I'm half polar bear by trade, so it's that's my bread and butter. You know, when you're built like a Volkswagen, it's like, well, you know, you're gonna like the cold weather up here. That's why I'm originally from Central Illinois, actually, and I like I said, I came up here to play college ball and stuff. But when I came up here, Minnesota State got voted coldest college in America. I think it was 13 or 14, and I went up to Duluth for my first time, and I know I'm taking some of your time here, but I figured I'd let you know this just because it was funny for me.
No worries.
I went up to the Duluth area, first time ever, my sophomore year of high school, and fell in love with it. You know, it was the evergreen, the waterfalls. It was like a postcard. It was picturesque, North Shore, Duluth. I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I went back home. And I got a scholarship offer to Minnesota State up in the Fargo-Moorhead area. I told everyone, you won't believe the scenery up in this area. I mean, the waterfalls and the big trees. And sure enough, I take a trip up there and I'm like, oh, Fargo-Moorhead looks just like Illinois. Cornfield, flat. And I'll never forget that because I was like, well, I guess Minnesota is different in areas. It doesn't all look this beautiful. But boy, I was convinced, man. I was convinced.
Yeah.
NDSU grad, go Bison.
Jeff Craig says, it's fun to tell people in warm climates that we drive on the lakes we fish. And it's a funny story because anytime we've ever been down to Mexico or any of these warm places, it's always a conversation. It comes up whether you're sitting at a restaurant or at a bar, or, you know, everybody says, oh, what do you do for work? And you tell them, I fish. And well, what do you do in the wintertime? I fish. You know, and then you tell them, you ever see the movie Grumpy Old Men? And, you know, they think it's just a movie, right? But you get people that get really focused and interested in that. And I can't tell you how many people from tropical places we visited have actually come up and fished with me.
You're kidding.
And it's awesome. It's amazing to take these people out. And it happens all the time. Some of my most memorable trips on the ice are guys that have, they watched Grumpy Old Men, honestly, and they said, we got to go do that. I had a group of guys from South Carolina. This goes back 10 years. And they called me and they said, hey, we just seen this movie about ice fishing. We'd like to give it a shot. We don't know anything about it. We're in South Carolina, and these boys were as redneck can be, man. And they set up a trip, and they were coming up. We had an outing up in northern Wisconsin where we had a whole group of people going out to a lake, kind of like I think it was our Ice Fishing First website, their winter outing I set up. So they were going to come up and fish with us. I'm like, this would be great. You'll get to really see everything about what makes ice fishing. And they drove from South Carolina in this little, I don't know, it was like a Toyota, one step down, I think, than from the Tacoma, one of these small little two-wheel drive pickup trucks. These guys were bigger than you. Inside this little pickup truck, and they drove straight through from South Carolina all the way up here. And what was funny, every single day leading up to that weekend, these guys were calling. They were so excited. They wanted to know, how is the ice getting any thicker? How much snow do you have? What are we going to catch? How many are we going to catch? I mean, every day these guys are just calling, super excited.
I love it.
And then they got up and they drove through an ice storm that came through the whole Midwest and shut everything down. The most scariest ride these guys have ever been on, driving up through it. And they show up early in the morning, and I watch them come up to the landing. Now, they had stopped and bought all this winter gear at Walmart. They got out of their trucks, and they looked like the abominable snowman, man. They're walking around, just can't even move. They're covered head to toe. And I pull up on my snowmobile, and these guys look at me like I just landed from outer space. They had no idea what was going on. And I said, okay, you guys just follow me. We'll take you out on the lake to where our group is. We've got the holes and everything already pretty much set up. Shacks are set up. And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, oh, yeah, well, this is the lake right here. We're going to drive out on it. And they're like, no. I'm like, don't worry, guys. You'll be fine. So I'm driving alongside of them, kind of talking at the same time. And I stopped. I'm like, oh, did you hear that? And, as you drive a vehicle,
Yeah,
right, it starts cracking. I'm like, oh God, I don't know if that's safe. I don't know. I'm freaking these guys out.
You didn't.
They don't know what's going on. So I'm like, I'm just messing with you. We're good. So we drive out and we give him an auger and we're watching him drill a hole, right? And the guy would take the auger and he'd drill like 3-4 inches. He'd pull it up. He'd go down. He'd look at the ice. He'd drill 3 or 4 more inches. I'm like, guy, there's like 2 feet ice here. Let's just keep drilling a hole here. But he was so infatuated with everything that was going on. We caught a whole bunch of pike on tip ups, and they had the time of their life. They got back in their truck and they ended up driving back home right through, the tail end of that snowstorm. And I can only, the picture I had in my head, it was like these guys returning from outer space, right?
Yeah.
They pull into their trailer park down in South Carolina, and
you won't
the whole
believe
neighborhood's
what just got done doing in Wisconsin.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what it was for them. I mean, they called me back, and I had half their neighborhood had called and wanted to come back up after these guys got back down there and told their stories and said how much fun they had. And for like a couple years after, I was taking people out from down in that part, and it's awesome to be able to share that. And there's nothing better, and to have fun with the guys and pick on guys like that a little bit is a little fun too.
Yeah, I'm super excited. My family has really never been ice fishing before. They've never experienced it. When we were taking a trip up here, my mom looked over, and it was during winter time on the way to college. We were back and forth to Illinois and whatnot, but she looked over and she goes, "Oh my gosh, I think those are people out on the water. They're not Jesus. What is going on?" And she just never seen. And if you've never seen it before, you just don't know. If you haven't experienced it, you don't know what we're talking about. And the first few times that I went out, boy, it was, you hear the do, and have to stop and really just kind of make sure, of course, being the bigger guy, they're like, "Get away from me. I don't want to be next to you."
See, we usually send guys like you out first, because that way there we know if you'll make it, we're safe.
Yes, we're good. Yeah, send Logan. He's, if he goes, we got enough guys to throw the rope and get him out. But my first time ice fishing, man, and that's what really started the addiction and the passion. Was I had my $15 Walmart rod sitting there with a couple of football buddies out on this small lake, and just jigging for panfish, catching just little dink bluegill, right? Just little babies, and nothing really significant. I'm nervous because I'm sitting on water and I can't process what I'm actually doing, right? And all of a sudden my Walmart rod, $15 goes, bam. And he goes, "Set the hook." Now, I don't know what that means. This is brand new to me, right? I don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And he says, "Set the hook." So, and I said, he lift up. And so I lifted up the rod, and the rod started, bending down, and it started cracking right at the base. It's starting to just crack right at the base there. And he knew what to do. He's been doing this ever since he was a little guy in Minnesota, ice fishing with grandpa. But he jumped down and started hand over hand in that, what I would assume is 2 to 3 pound test. Very, very bad line. And all of a sudden he pulled up just shy of a 24-inch walleye. And I'll tell you what, Troy, if I'm lying, I'm dying. I was literally hooked after seeing that fish come up, catching these little babies, and all of a sudden a nice big, good looking 24-inch walleye. I went the next weekend. My wife's so mad at me. I spent way too much money on ice fishing equipment. I bought a house from Kyle Agri. He had one in his pole bar. I was literally hooked, no pun intended. And that was it. And then here, it's started. Look what happened. It's just the passion continues, man. And it's an awesome sport, and it's an awesome people. All the people are great. And it's fun. It's so fun. So fun.
It is. And, you got a lot of great people. I'm jealous of where you're at, man. The one thing, with Wisconsin, we've got some good anglers, but it's nothing like the people that are up in Minnesota, the core group of guys that are into this sport, that northern Minnesota, Dakotas. I'm so jealous of what you guys have, and
phenomenal men and women.
It's awesome.
Phenomenal.
Yep.
Can't complain.
Well, sir, I appreciate it again. Please go check out Logan's podcasts. Again, you can find him Long Ice Outdoors on any of the social media stuff, and he puts out a great podcast as well. Logan, will have you on again, bud, for sure. And
sounds good, man.
Figure out a time to get out, and I'll cook you guys some good lunch out on the ice.
Yeah, I got to make a trip out that way. That's for sure. You come this way, and then I'll plan one to get a few guys. Hopefully, get Laws up here, make a trip out of it, and get a nice little group together to go have some fun and share some memories. So, Mr. Bluegill, I appreciate it.
The Boathouse is always open for you guys to stay. So
let's
come
go.
On down.
Let's go. I can't wait. Sounds good, man. I appreciate it. Thanks to everybody for chatting.
Man. Thanks for coming.
Happy New Year. We'll see you.
See you later. All right. Well, great stories, great people. Again, thanks to Logan and Laws for joining. It's great. I mean, the amount of people that we have in this industry that I consider friends, you know, that's the one thing is you don't have to be living next door to these guys or, you know, talk to them every day, but you know, at the drop of the hat, I think any one of us would do anything for all of our friends. It's just, it's a family, and I really enjoy spending time with these guys when we get to go to the shows and, you know, nights like tonight, spending some time just chatting. So appreciate everybody here that's, you know, joined in tonight. We do it every Tuesday night for the most part. Please, if you have some topics, let me know. I'll do whatever I can to get some guys on. I am going to try and get on Jay Shakurat and maybe Adam Rasmussen and talk about the Bassmaster Classic. We've got a lot of local guys that are fishing the Classic this year. Really excited. Josh Wiesner from the Boat Dock, Adam Rasmussen, and Jay Shakurat, of course, Gussie. All these guys, you know, I fished with and would consider them friends. So we'll try and get some of these guys online too and talk about upcoming Classic. I'm going to actually try and get down in Oklahoma this year. So should be fun there. Again, you know, we'll report back with ice conditions as we start looking around and checking out the lakes around here. But for the most part, you know, we'll wait for these storms to get done. I'm going to go plow some snow again tonight, and then we've got a bunch more coming this weekend. And hopefully after that, that cold gets here and we can start making some ice and actually getting out on the ice and doing some fishing. My rods are ready, the gear's ready, and I don't think anybody's been any more ready than I am this year, just chomping at the bit to get out. So appreciate it, guys. Have a good evening. If you do get out driving around or whatever, be safe. Be safe out on the water. Make sure you're, you know, checking in with people, letting them know where you're going. Bring a friend. Make sure you got your picks, flotations, just anything to be safe. Carry your chisel. Check the ice. It's going to be a little spooky, I think, here these first couple of weeks getting out. So that's all I got for you guys. Have a good night, and we'll catch you guys next week. And cheers.